And good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Destiny and A Mother's Cry. I am your host, Jamie Green, and I am excited to be here to talk about something that is extremely important to me, very dear to my heart. Tonight, I have a very special guest with me, a very dear friend who I know without a doubt that um, it is a divine connection. It's nothing that I did on my own. I know without a doubt that God brought us together, and I'm so excited. Tonight, we want to talk to you about the new initiative that A Mother's Cry has begun, and it's called Project Redemption. And you're going to hear a lot about it. Every time you turn around, you're going to be hearing about it. And so basically, Project Redemption is an initiative that we've put together to address some issues and concerns with the criminal justice system. And we know that that is a large pie right there. So we're going to just take pieces of that pie at a time and address it because we do know that mass incarceration is a crisis, especially in this state. And we definitely want to do our part to address it. So before we get into tonight, we're going to talk about the financial literacy part and how that impacts mass incarceration, families that are impacted by mass incarceration, how the financial literacy piece is important, and also for those who are incarcerated that we're trying to get home as well. So tonight, I want to introduce to you my friend and my partner, Aaliyah Williamson. Aaliyah is the president and CEO of A Woman's Mindset, and she can tell you a little about that if she wants to. But tonight, she's here as a partner and collaborator with the A Mother's Cry Project Redemption Initiative, and I am beyond honored to have her here with us tonight. Aaliyah, welcome to the platform.
Thank you so much, Jameson. And like you stated, I am a collaborator. I am here, obedient to God's just prompting for me to utilize whatever education resources that I have really to support the people in the kingdom. Um, I have truly uh, started a very close walk with God. And like you stated, one of the things that I have prayed about over the past 2 to 3 years is really truly understanding my purpose, and living out that purpose and understanding where God needed me to be. And this is where that divine connection has come into play with us. So it is a pleasure to be working with you and partnering with you on this effort that is truly impacting so many families across this nation. And we know as we're going into a political season, we tend to hear the same rhetoric over and over again. And we want those who are listening to know that we care about your families, we care about you, and we know that we are all souls that God has placed us here for a purpose. And we have a reason to be here. And we want everyone to live out their purpose because in that purpose, it allows us to fix the things that are wrong with this world. And we want to ensure that everyone can embrace that and be able to live that out. And I think Project Redemption truly provides that opportunity to assess what it is that we're doing wrong. Not that we're going to place blame on Republicans or Democrats or anyone else. We know that ideologies are where they are based on how we grew up, based on different focuses of our lives, things that we've endured, struggles, strife. We know that a lot of that ideology is based on those particular factors, which can truly create bias for us to want to help others. And we know that when we
Yeah,
talk about the criminal justice system, these are forgotten individuals. These are people where it feels better to say out of sight, out of mind. And we have to pull back from that focus and take a look from a biblical perspective how Jesus died for us and how he expects us to put ourselves out there to support others. And the reason why the world is in a lot of chaos is because it is so easy for us as individuals to turn our backs on the needs of others. And a lot of times it's not deliberate. It's because we're in a survival mode ourselves. We're seeking to understand how to care for our families. But that dynamic of when we help others, we help ourselves. And I have learned that truly with my walk with God and just the work that I'm seeking to do with you and others. So, before we even get started with the full content of this discussion, for those of you who are listening, let's take more of a step as opposed to just nodding and agreeing with the things that need to be done and be a part of the action that needs to be taken and really dig deep and pray about how God can use you in an effort like this because we need everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about, and I, mention this often, how our politicians, the Attorney General for the state of Maryland, said in a press conference that mass incarceration is a crisis. It's not just about whether you have a son that's locked up, whether you have a daughter that's locked up. Mass incarceration impacts all of us. And so, as Aaliyah said, we don't want to just sit home and nod our heads and say, oh, that's a shame. That's so sad. Something needs to be done. Yes, something needs to be done. And we're inviting you to be a part of what needs to be done. We're inviting you to join us on the ground level as we're building and growing this particular initiative. We want you to join us in our infancy because every person that is listening has something that you can bring to the table that will help us to move this forward. So tonight we're going to address the specific area of financial literacy. Now, why, Aaliyah, explain to our audience why that particular piece is so important with regard to families that are impacted by mass incarceration.
Well, we know that financial literacy is essential as a part of reintegration. We know that, responsibility in relationship to our purpose, family, and businesses, as with anything, require education for application to be successful. And I just recently attended a webinar for small businesses with a gentleman, Jay Gaudet, who was a speaker at a money seminar hosted by Verizon. Um, that it resonated strongly with me is how we view money and our hurt regarding the lack of money and how that will determine our relationship with money. And when we talk about building generational wealth in low income communities, we cannot teach what we're not taught, hence the lack of generational wealth. So, if we don't have a full understanding of how money plays a role in our lives, how to basically utilize it as a tool and not to have it overcome us, then we lose the full concept of how we can use money not only to build wealth within our families, but to build up our communities. And we know that in many low income families, as with me, I grew up in a single parent household. My mother was a domestic violence victim, and she worked multiple jobs. She did what she could to take care of us. She did an excellent job. But you have a lot of these families who just don't have access to that education. And when people go from a situation like that, then go to the streets to seek to make money, as this gentleman, Jay Gaudet, he really went through his testimony regarding his mother not having enough money for to care for him and his sister. He went to the streets to start to make money. Luckily, he didn't end up in a situation where a lot of people end up, where it can change the full trajectory of your life. But when we talk about second chances, how are we truly setting people up for a second chance? If there's
Yes.
no infrastructure, if there's no way for them to be educated, and I know a lot of people have the feedback that, well, if you get arrested, why should taxpayer money pay for you to get an education when there are a lot of families out here who have to pay for their children to have an education. It's not that the system is set up properly. And this is where a lot of people's feedback is needed, where
Yeah.
we want to ensure that regardless of whether you've ended up behind bars for whatever reason, ensuring that there is a fairness to how the system is structured, and that we're not seeking to place you somewhere for the rest of your life where you can't
Right.
add value to your community, where you can't add value to your family. What does rehabilitation truly look like? You
Yes.
rehabilitate someone from behaviors that are not conducive to a growing environment where they can progress and where they are providing progression for those that they are with. So if we're not providing them with the tools to step out into their community, where we're not sending them home in a state that's worse than where they went in, we're not helping them. And I just want to touch on another point really quickly where a lot of people will state, well, they don't want to hire someone who has been previously incarcerated. I truly believe that we have all and Jesus has said the same thing to the Pharisees. For the woman that they brought to him, where she was caught in adultery and they wanted
Right.
to stone her, and they asked Jesus, "What do you do about a woman like this?" And he basically stated the first person to throw a stone is for someone who has never made a mistake in their life. It is
Yes.
so easy for us to take a step back and judge those who have made mistakes while we cover our own. And this is where God is saying that we are all flawed, we have all made mistakes, and we are sinners in our own right. And it is our responsibility to help others who have sinned. Because if you take this population of individuals that you have kind of placed in a corner and said, forget about them, there's no rehabilitation for them, we are in a situation now post COVID where businesses are struggling. And this is why communities should care. This is why businesses should care, because there are a lot of business owners out there who are struggling, who have businesses that are still open and running, but they're understaffed and they can't keep up with the demand of post COVID activities. And you need more people who are willing to do work in an infrastructure or form of how we used to function pre COVID. Because the ideology around how people want to work is changing, businesses cannot innovate fast enough to determine how to stay afloat in the post COVID environment. So we need the people who have pretty much disappeared from our society because they're caught in a system who doesn't have an infrastructure that understands how to basically set up consequences that are in alignment with whatever the situation is. Okay, and that's a separate issue, and you had just stated that the criminal justice system, there's a problem with it from end to end, and we plan to really address rehabilitation first. Okay, so being able to understand that if we have people who are running through a cycle but they're getting hung up in it for years, they're never
Yes.
coming out on the other side to help to support the infrastructure that's needed in society now to keep families, to keep businesses, to keep things moving and keeping them afloat. We need them. And I think
Yes.
until people really understand that they have a purpose and we need them,
Yes.
that will really change their focus about how to help them so that they can help us.
Absolutely. And I read something the other day, and because I live in the state of Maryland, I read a lot about mass incarceration in this state, but it is actually, as we know, it's a problem nationwide. Um, but I read the other day that every year, at least 4,000 people are returned into our communities from the prison system. So the question then becomes, what have we prepared these people to do, as Aaliyah said, to support themselves, to support their families? What have we prepared them with mental, as far as mental health, um, being able to take care of themselves and their family? What are we doing to prepare them? This is why we need collaborators, right? This is why we need people who will say, this particular piece right here really disturbs me. I'd like to learn more about how we can work that into the initiative. That's why we need you. We can't do all of this by ourselves. The system, as Mutima says in the comments, it wasn't set up to be fair. It wasn't established fair from the beginning. But this is what we have, right? I hear a lot of people say, oh, the system is broken. The system is not actually broken. The system is actually operating the way they set it up. But what we're becoming enlightened to and what we're getting insight into is that there are pieces of this that we can change, but we have to come together to do that. I was thinking about people who go to prison and come home, go to prison and come home, back and forth, back and forth. And it's easy for people to sit on the couch and say, every time I look up, Junebug is back in prison. Every time I turn around, Alpha is back in prison. Okay, but why? Like, were they prepared when they came home to be able to be um, productive individually and in their families? I was talking to a mother the other day, and this is a whole nother piece that we're going to deal with later on, Aaliyah, in the with the initiative, and it's the other side of the mass incarceration. Okay, what about when my child comes home? And so I was talking to a mother the other day, and she was saying that the entire time her son was incarcerated, like I want to say like 15 years, maybe 20 years, he was on some kind of psychotic medicine, psychiatric medicine. When they released him on parole or probation, they did not send him home with a plan to see a psychiatrist. They did not send him home with prescriptions that he was taking while he was in prison. So then you wonder why he's home now. I think he's been home like a year, unable to work,
Mhm.
having extreme anger issues and other mental health issues because he was not properly prepared to come home. And so the family, excuse me, everybody, hold on one second. The family was not prepared for when he came home.
Mhm.
They're just excited that he's home. But he brought home some things with him that he did not have when he went in. So what can we do to prepare him so that when he does go look for a job, that he has some talents, he has some skills other than just, I was in prison for the last 20 years and I need money. So this is something that is extremely important that we want to work on because it is the redemption piece of this initiative that is so important to Aaliyah and I. Because to redeem means to buy back. To redeem means to bring back to its rightful position. And so this is what we want to do for these people. We're not saying that everybody that's in prison should be turned loose. We're not saying that at all. But what we're saying is that people should be prepared for when they do come home, that they can be productive in our society. And so I wanted to bring that up. And I want you to explain, Leah, in your very unique way, why is financial literacy essential during the reintegration period, right? I see a lot of reentry programs throughout the state of Maryland, right? And so the people come home and they go to these facilities or they go to these programs and they give them a list of things that they need to do. But how can we help them with the financial literacy part to reintegrate before they actually come back home? What are some ideas about that?
So Proverbs 21:20 states, "There's treasure to be desired and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but a foolish man spendeth it up." So to me, this verse emphasizes the importance of prudent management and preparation for the future, which resonates with the need for financial literacy during reintegration and honestly, during their time in prison. Because learning how to budget, save, and plan helps an individual avoid impulsive decisions um, that would actually allow them to build a sustainable lifestyle. And
Yes,
just take it from that perspective. This is something that was not learned when they were not in prison. When we talk about those who come from low income families, again, we cannot teach what we don't know. If there is a lack of generational wealth in our family, no one is teaching us about budgeting. No one is teaching us about really the steps that are needed in order for us to function in a society where money creates opportunities, money creates sustainability. So, when returning to society, individuals need financial knowledge to make informed decisions to set a solid foundation for long term success, and really equipping people with financial literacy during reintegration and not just about managing money per se. It reflects biblical wisdom about stewardship, about discipline and preparation. This ensures that they can become self sufficient and contribute meaningfully to their families and communities, aligning them with the Bible's message of personal responsibility and restoration. So, this is where we're trying to go here is not just building a structure of to-dos or a to-do list. We're seeking to do this from a biblical perspective. And this is where I think a lot of people may sigh or say, oh, they want to talk about the Bible. You can say whatever you want. The Bible is the blueprint on how to do things correctly. So unless we heed God's word on how to help these people, they're not going to be able to help us. And yes, as they continue to let people out of prison without a plan, without ensuring that their trauma has been managed, without ensuring that mental health, etc. And my business is called A Woman's Mindset. This is a mindset issue. This is an issue from going from poverty to understanding purpose. And you need to address that not just from a worldly view, but spirituality has to be a part of reintegration as well, too, in alignment with financial stability, in order for families to understand exactly that the person that is being released can add substance to their family and pick up and mend the relationships that were left behind when they were in prison. These are the things when people come out of prison, they don't want to have to sit on the couch and not have anything to do. The moment that they come out, they should be prepared as a part of a workforce development program where companies are working as a part of this infrastructure to say, our people have been training this individual. He or she already has a job the moment that they step out. So they can already start to provide for their family. Because if someone is gone for, I mean, 1, 2, or even longer years in prison, this has broken down the infrastructure of their family. So if you went from a 2-person, 3-person salaried household, now you're down to one, or maybe the person has to do a part time job because you have children. They are living really paycheck to paycheck, hand to mouth, and they can't take another mouth on. They can't take on the needs of another person coming into their household who cannot contribute. So then you're pulling people further into poverty. And for those who have the ideology that welfare programs should not be established because it makes people lazy, this is where that comes from. If you are not going to build a bridge for people to go from support to stability, you're never going to be able to remove people off of services that they don't even want to be on. My
that's right.
mother didn't want to go on welfare. Okay. She refused welfare because as she continued to make more money at work, the support that she was getting for her bills, they were going to remove all of that. You
Right.
have to give people a level of stability in order to push them towards um in order to push them towards self-sufficiency.
That's
That's
right.
not going to happen by just taking everything off the table and saying, up, you don't need us anymore. You have to create a process that allows people to go through it with humanity and showing that they really don't want to be on these programs. They want to stand strong for their family, to show their children. Okay. This is a form of manhood, womanhood. We want to stand strong for our family. We don't want to stand in long lines to pick up checks, to pick up food. We want to be able to provide for our family, and we want to be able to provide our family with good food, not garbage, which is what is
Yeah.
given to people who are of low income. And excuse
And
my excitement because that makes me angry just all in one right there. But this is
I
again,
totally understand.
where illness comes from. This is where all of these things come from in a form of helping people. You're not helping them, you're debilitating them. So take a look at a system that is broken. How can we restructure? And I know that a lot of people are like, "Oh, well this can be a very daunting task to do." Everything takes time. Everything takes
Yeah.
collaboration. You take small bite-sized pieces out of a problem, you can fix it in
Yeah.
1 to 5 years, but you have to have the right motivation, the right process, the right support, and the right plan. And this is what we seek to do with Project Redemption. It is key to incorporate mental health, financial literacy, all of these things, workforce development, learning trades, learning skills, giving the people the opportunity to where they get out of prison, that not only are they working, the job that they're working may provide a pathway for them to finish school. This is
Yeah.
where these are the type of things that we need to do. We have to give people hope, and we can't do that with the way the system is structured right now.
Absolutely not. And I think, as you were talking, and for those of you who are listening, and thank you so much. We appreciate you taking time to join us. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the comment section because we appreciate them. Um, and as you said, Matuma, it does take a village, this whole thing. And I think one of the things that Aaliyah and I talk about often is the humanity piece, right? When you throw people into a cage and you just have them on lockdown because they are excessively locked in these cages nowadays because the whole short staff shortage thing. Um, Thank you. Have a seat, please. It's a time for loving. It's a time for moving up. Um, and I think that people have a tendency to say, well, they committed a crime, they're a criminal, they're not, worthy of my time. They're not worthy of my attention. Um, and you throw them in a cage and you forget all about them. One of the things that we want to do with Project Redemption is to keep at the forefront the humanity of these people. They're not just criminals. They're not uh, the scum of the earth. I shared this the other day and I'm going to share it again. I was on a Zoom call with some staff members from the Department of Corrections. And I was talking about some concerns at the facility where my son is warehoused. And, some negative comments were made about the facility. And people, started laughing. I didn't think it was funny because those are human beings there. And if you are the Department of Corrections, you should be addressing those issues instead of making jokes about it. But as I began to share my story, I broke down crying and I started to apologize. And one of the staff members cut me off and she said, do not ever apologize for your passion. Do not ever apologize for your concern because you know why? She said, most of us on this call needed to hear that because we think of these people as numbers, as cases, but we have been in this business so long that we forgot to think of them as human. And she said, in your testimony, your your tears, your mother's heart, your mother's cry, reminded each and every one of us on this call, that these people have families that love them.
Mhm.
No matter what we think of them, no matter why they're here, they have mothers, they have fathers, they have sisters and brothers and children that love them. And so I appreciate, she said, I appreciate you doing that because you helped me to remember that these are humans. And so throughout Project Initiative, those of you that as you're listening to us, we're looking forward to having you to commit and say, I would be happy to join. What can I do? Or this is a piece of the initiative that I think I would like to work in because I have expertise in this area. I can bring this. But we always want to remember these are somebody's children.
Mhm.
These are somebody's family members. And whatever we bring, whatever we do, as Aaliyah said, we're not going to keep throwing up scriptures in your face every 5 seconds. But the bottom line is that we are Christians. We believe the word of God. We believe that we are to live by that in every area, not
Mhm.
just when we go to church on Sunday, but even when we're dealing with incarcerated persons. We should deal with them the way that God deals with us.
Mhm.
Jesus said, when I was in prison, you did not come and visit me. When I was hungry, you did not feed me. When I was sick, you did not come and see about me. And his disciples said, we've been with you every day, all day long. When did that happen? When did you go to prison? When were you sick? We never saw that. And Jesus' response was, when you do it to them,
Give it to me.
you've done it unto me.
Yep.
And this is what we want you to get tonight. That's right, Debbie. We've got to show more grace, regardless of the situation that they found themselves in. They deserve God's grace and mercy just like you do. And this is what Project Initiative is. I'm losing my voice, Leah, so I'm going to let you speak for a few more
No, and I
minutes.
definitely want to give a, a shout out to correctional officers because they're traumatized in this factor as well too, where they're seeing the level of abuse and some of them may be involved in it. Because again, when you are in an environment that is not conducive of humanity, you tend to pick up that lack of humanity because you're seeing it every day. It becomes a norm. And this is where not only are we exposing individuals who are incarcerated to this form of abuse, but those who should be looking after them and looking over them and caring for them. When you talk about senior citizen communities where the abuse takes place, where those who are their caretakers are looking after them tend to abuse them. This is the part of the world that we live in. And we understand that at many times we all fall, we all make mistakes. And these are things that may be hidden that people may not know of. But when we look at other people, this is an opportunity for us to take the things that we may not be doing correctly, the things that we may typically push away and say it's not my problem, and take a harder look because we may not know someone who is, specifically in prison that's in our family. But do we have to be put in a situation where it will be us, it will be our children, that it will eventually be a family member? And then you want to step in during that time when the time is now. The time is now to address these issues for our children. When we talk about an unjust system, we can't just do nothing about it. And we take a look, and I know that we're in a time where a lot of people are focused on me, I. But a lot of that
minutes.
really is to the detriment of later generations. Because as with Martin Luther King, if that work did not get put in, where would we be? Okay. If those who fought back against slavery did not put that work in, where would we be? And incarceration is just a new form of slavery. And if we're not
Absolutely.
going to address it, it will expand and it will
Absolutely.
begin to basically absorb and eat through really all of our families. People cannot act like they are immune to anything because this was the same ideology with COVID. People thought that they were immune to it. And then it started to basically engulf all of us, where all of our
Yeah.
lives changed. And this is where, again, like you stated, we're not going to just constantly throw out scripture, but my God wrote out everything, okay, that we are living through today. Everything in his word in the Bible is basically what has happened throughout history and throughout history of history. Okay. We cannot deny that. And again, if he's setting the blueprint for us to do this right, that we can protect ourselves and our families. And look, I'm going to throw out another scripture there. Okay. And Proverbs 21:5, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. The value of thoughtful and well planned efforts leading to prosperity, that is investing in rehabilitation. It's a form of diligent planning leading to long term societal and economic benefits. And this is what people need to understand the why. It's not just about the families that are unseen and unknown to you. It is about
Yeah.
economic benefits that a lot of people are struggling with right now. Okay. And the hastiness of punitive measures that lead to poverty, punitive, the criminal justice system, there's no real opportunity for people to be able to immerse back into society. Okay. And we're addressing some criminal behaviors. I mean, 20, 15, 20, 25 years. We need to reassess these things. But again, this is a larger problem to a much longer issue. And when we talk about tackling it from end to end, again, correctional officers, those who are in local, federal, state entities, nonprofit organizations, grassroots organizations, organizations that have clients who have been victimized. We want to hear from everyone because we need to build a plan and infrastructure that incorporates the feedback from everyone because we are the society, we are the people. So we need to understand at every level what we need to tackle and ensuring that we're placing the right people with the right expertise in the right areas to ensure that we can build this properly. And we want to really start to pilot this in areas that are really struggling right now. When we talk about certain correctional institutions who are struggling, understaffed, okay, they're releasing people who are in horrible conditions to their family. And we know that a lot of these low income families, they don't have health insurance. So you're releasing someone from the criminal justice system or a correctional facility who, like you stated, for your example, who was on a lot of medication. We're not addressing people's mental health issues. We're pumping them full of drugs to keep them um, in a sedative state
Docile.
while they're
Hmm.
in the institution so we can handle them better and then we release them without any of that medication. That is not safe. It's not appropriate. And we really need to think about the fact that we're releasing adults into back into families where there are small children. And we're talking about family safety. So there are just so many issues here that when we talk about a lack of humanity, I mean, I can't find another term for it. I mean, it is devastating. There are a
Yes.
lot of ways that we can stop the bleeding, but we're just not doing it. And we have an
Debbie,
opportunity to do it here.
I see your comment, and I'm going to make sure. Leah, can you repeat that last scripture that you shared with us?
Proverbs 21:5, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty.
Proverbs 21:5. That it, Debbie? Excuse me. And as Leah was saying, there's so many issues, so many pieces to this, and we're not going to just quit. We're not just going to say, "Oh, it's just too much." We give up. We were talking the other day about the inept foster care system and how a lot of people are connected, ended up in prison because of things that they suffered. in the foster care system. And as a result of that abuse, they went out and abused somebody else. We
Correct.
talked about homelessness, especially with our
Hmm.
teenagers that leave. They don't have a place to
They
call
age
home.
out. They may age out of
Yeah,
foster care, nowhere to go.
and they don't feel like they belong anywhere. Nobody cares anything about me, so I got to do what I got to do to survive. So all of these are
Exactly.
pieces that we want to address, and that's why we need your help. We need you to say, okay, I want to join this project. I want to know, what can I do to help. I'm
And I
sorry.
would say too that we're not just seeking to take this from a grassroots perspective. We know that there's an opportunity for legislation to be rewritten. We also know that there's needed partnership, for example, with Yvonne Briley Wilson. I hope I'm saying her name correctly, who has been just appointed by Governor Wes Moore to be the acting correctional ombudsman
Yeah,
that has just been appointed for Maryland. These are the type of thing we want to partner with federal, local, state entities. We're not seeking to demonize you. We're not seeking to demonize any of the things that are already in place. We want there to be transparency. We want families to be involved in a lot of these discussions. We want families to really put out there the struggles that they're dealing with when someone comes home. When we talk about and we look at Baltimore streets right now, we know that there is a primary focus on punishment and on ensuring that the laws are tight enough to just put people away. But what about the children that are left behind? And all they
yeah,
see is violence. They're going to continue to perpetuate that same cycle. If we're not addressing the breakdown of the family when someone goes into prison and providing them with the necessary resources and also ensuring that rehabilitation is taking place while the person is in prison, the moment that they're released, they can step back in and bring healing. That's not going to happen at the federal, state, and local levels. We have to understand that family, there's a certain responsibility that only family can take on that can't
yeah,
happen at those levels, and it can't be policed, it can't be done at these certain levels where we're just trying to clean up the streets. But you're trying to clean up the streets, but we're not addressing trauma. We're not addressing
hello.
how trauma is impacting people's lives, how it has them walking through life, how it has them viewing society. And like you stated, that term, and I don't know who said this particular phrase, but hurt people hurt people. And like you stated, if you grew up in an environment where you were abused, no one cared for you, and then you ended up homeless out on the street, you're jumping from an abusive cycle to another abusive cycle. And you've never
Yeah,
seen peace. You've never seen kindness. You've never seen humanity at the level that God expects from all of us. We have to
absolutely.
reinstitute that. And I know that a lot of people, whether you're a believer or not, you have to incorporate the spiritual aspect of it because without God, we're nothing. Without God, all the things that we seek to do will not happen. He is a part of the entire blueprint. And for Project Redemption, we're going to build that on top of his discipline and his biblical words, because we know he loves us and we need to love each other the same way that he loves us. It is the only way that healing is going to happen as a part of this cycle. And again, for those in federal, local, and state government, we want to work with you. We understand the complexity of the work that you're doing. We do not
Yeah,
want to take this from a political ideology. This is truly about helping people.
absolutely. And I was thinking as you were talking, like it just the whole mass incarceration thing is breaking families, period.
Hmm.
And so we've got to figure out, what can we do to restore those families. That's what we
Correct.
want to do. And
Correct.
those of you who are listening and hearing Aaliyah speak for the first time, you can probably understand why I believe that God put us together, because I have the passion of a mother. Um, and sometimes my passion, uh, I can get a little carried away with the passion part of it. even though it's important when you are trying to deal with legislators and business people, you need someone that can speak with you, that can speak so that they can understand. They get the message, but they can't understand what you're saying from a business and a political standpoint. And we have already begun. Um, we've sent emails to legislators. Today, I sent out 17 emails to legislators in the state of Maryland, and I still have more to send out. And I was telling somebody today, I don't hesitate. At the beginning of the journey, when my son first got sent away, I spent a lot of time crying and being sick and having headaches and just stressing. But then I come to realize that I have to take those tears and turn them into action. And this is what we're doing now. Leah can tell you, anybody that works closely with me, I will cry for about 5 minutes and then I'm picking up the phone and call somebody. I'm going
Yes.
to email somebody.
Yes.
And so, yeah,
Yes.
make sure the situation is addressed. And this is what we're trying to do with this initiative. And that's why we're inviting you to be a part of it, to bring um, to us whatever you have to offer, and we can work it out. Because it is a community problem, it is a state problem, it is a national problem, it is a world problem. Every one of us is touched and impacted by mass incarceration. I don't care if you say, I don't even know one person that's in prison. Your tax money is taking care of those people that are in there, whether you know them or not. So all of us are impacted one way or another. So we've got to do what we can do to make things better. Does anybody have any questions or further comments that you want to share? And then I'm going to let my girl Elia close us out. I just love her. Like, sometimes I just like text. I get a thought, I get an idea, and I'll text her. Like I don't really know how to put it together technologically or whatever. And I'm just like, oh my God, Aaliyah, what about such a thing? And her immediate response is, give me a little while, give me a few minutes, I'll fix it for you. It that reminds me, you all need to check out our website, um, because everything on that website she's responsible for, and
No,
that is W.
I'm just providing support. I'm definitely not gonna get take credit for everything. And I did make some additional updates, so let me know what you think about that and if you want me to change anything.
All right, so
And
that's
that's where I think God
www.
has really provided. My husband makes fun of me because I've had so many different jobs, and I was like, "Hey, this is God allowing me to use all my skills from all those different areas." And that's, I mean, and this is where there's so many people in prison who have talents and who have skills that have not even been tapped into. And we need them. We need them. They need a second chance, and so do we. So do we. So,
That's right.
I mean, again, this is really a call to action for humanity. And Jay Messina and I, I send out, I'm one person that tries to encourage a lot of the people in my life because I know what it feels like to feel down, like you don't have any purpose, to feel as if you have nothing to offer. And that's just not true. And this is where you really need to surround yourself with people and purpose, and so that you can truly live out what God knows you are capable of. If you are here, He is not done with you. And
Amen.
one of the things that I try to do every single day, be disciplined with, just my health, my wellness, praying. And I seek to try to push those around me to do the same thing. I send out a lot of sermons every morning. Everyone who's on my list, you know who you are, and you're getting those 5 a.m. messages like, here she go again. But the thing is that it's just so necessary to keep your mindset right. And I just, I want to give a quick, plug here for Pastor Stephen Furtick, Pastor Darius Daniel, Elevation Church, all of these entities who are truly seeking to uplift the people. We need you too. We need your
And that's
support.
right.
We need you all who are pastors. I am not a pastor, but we need all those pastors out there who speak truth to what is in the Bible, to what can be done here, and to help mobilize, help us mobilize. We need you. We need every aspect, every education, every industry. We need you. Help us build the infrastructure to address this problem, to free these people, and to free ourselves
Yes,
from,
yes,
living in darkness, because that is where we are right now. We all have a process and a task here. Let's
yes.
just get this done. Let's do it.
Let's do it. That's right.
Let's do
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Williamson.
it.
She,
Thank you.
she is so funny to me. Like the other day, she sent me this email where she has sent an email to Pastor Stephen Furtick,
Oh my
and
God, I love him. He's so
I
inspiring.
just bust out laughing because I just finished watching him preach on YouTube. And I'm like, this girl, she is so bold. And when she is committed, she is committed. Like, it never even crossed my mind to send out um, emails to churches. Like,
Hey, and this
and
just
when
like you stated, when you get riled up, I can get riled up too. And I think that's one thing that God gave me. I can be bold and be like, okay, so what you doing? Are you gonna help over here? Because we need it. So you don't know how to help. Let's help find you a place in a role. Let's go. And that's where we
what
need to
did
be.
what did you say that you're gonna say to the new ombudsman?
Oh, that we are looking forward to working with you. We are happy about your appointment. We are looking forward to working with you. And we know in this type of role, us working together, it can be successful. Let us have something of success to report to the people in the year that you are in this role. We can do this. And I am confident in that.
Aaliyah, I'm gonna just put her out on the spot. I'm gonna call her name out and I'm gonna tell her this is what we're going to do. I just like
Yes.
that
Yes.
is too
And we
funny.
we just said Miss Yvonne Briley Wilson. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. We are looking forward to working with you.
Oh my God. I just love you so much.
I love you too.
And it's
Thank you so
funny
much for your
because
time and for inviting me on your show again. Truly appreciate you.
absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us tonight. We really, really appreciate you. And I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you who tuned in tonight. You can inbox me, you can email me, you hit me up on the website, whatever, and let us know what it is that you would like to do. If you say, I want to help, but I don't really know what I want to do, we want to hear from you as well. Because trust me, we have something for you. All
Yes, we
right.
do.
Thank you so
Amen.
much. All
Thank you
right.
all so much. Have a great evening.
You do the same.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.